I am very honored today to interview my guest today, a mom that I thought I had interviewed, but I didn't. So I had to make sure that I reached out. She is a realtor on Maui. My dad and my husband both born and raised in Maui. Her name is Luana HueSing-Ammasi, blended family, three boys. So she has a 22-year-old and a 12-year-old, right? And then your husband has a 15-year-old son, and she has a 2-year-old grandson.
Soon to
Single
be
mom for
3.
20, I'm sorry?
He's soon to be 3 in
Oh
March.
my gosh, a fun,
So
fun
fast.
age.
Yeah.
So fast. A single mom for 10 years, she shared with her oldest son, married in 2008. And then again in 2018 to her amazing, amazing, incredible husband. And what we're here today to share, I am just very honored and blessed to have you share your vulnerability and share wisdom on how you feel unhealthy and toxic relationships, how that impacts children in the household, and what you do to make sure when you have, all of us moms have those down times, what we do to find that inner strength and how you knew it was time to leave. Can you just share briefly of your what made you want to leave?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. I love watching videos, especially those mom moments, those
Oh,
mom
thanks.
meditation moments. I love those. I'm like, okay,
Yes.
let's do this. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I was in a toxic relationship for about 7 years, and verbal abuse. He was also an addict and abusive to my older son. Um, I I wanted to make it work, which was why I stayed for so long, because I wanted to know that I had done everything that I could to make it work. But when I started seeing my younger son, so I think he was about 7 or 8 at the time, when I started seeing my ex-husband's behavior in him coming out towards me, that was my indicator that this is not the environment that I want my boys to grow up in. I don't want them to think that this is how they should be as a husband or as a father. And so once I realized, I'll share just a little bit. He was an addict, or she still is, and I found the drugs. I had prayed. I was like, God, show me what I need to see, to either stay in this relationship or leave. Because if you want me to stay, I'll do my very best to try to make this work. But if you show me that it's time for me to leave, I'm going to trust in your plan for our life, no matter how scary it may be, because he was the breadwinner
Mhm.
in the household. So I had found the drugs, and I took that as a sign that God's showing me what I needed to see in order to stay or to leave. And this wasn't the first time. Throughout the marriage, drugs was an issue. I never did any hardcore drugs. So seeing those things was new to me. And then finding out that he had been fooling around, he had been with prostitutes, then it starts to get into my head. Like, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? And so, with the help of my mom and my close circle that was in my life, you know, telling me that I deserved better, because it takes a while for you to finally realize I do deserve better. And I see a lot of women who stay in these toxic relationships for years and years, like what we were talking about before we started recording. And I think for me, I finally came to a place of this is not how I want to live out the rest of my life. Because at that time, I was, I think 42, 41 or 42, like still early in my 40s. I'm almost 50 now, but it was like I could realistically live for another 30 years, 30 to 40 years, given health and all of that. Is this how I want to live out the next 30 to 40 years of my life? And I said, no, this is not. I can't do this anymore. And at that time, it was my oldest son was graduating from high school. He was leaving to go to the Army. So lots of changes in my life, going from having your child with you every day for 18 years. And now, they're off on their own, and you realize how fast time goes by. And you realize how limited your time is, not just with your children, but life in general. And then seeing my younger son starting to pick up bad behaviors, it was like, if I stay in this relationship, will my younger son eventually be an addict himself because of what's going on at home? And I decided, no, I'm not going to live this way anymore. I don't want my kids to think that this is normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I love myself enough that I will take a step out in faith, no matter how scary it is, because I didn't have a job, didn't have a place to live. It would have been easy to just stay because he was the one, bringing in the money. I had little side jobs, little side hustles, but nothing that would be able to let me afford rent and groceries and all those things. And so it was scary, and it took a lot of prayer, but it was so liberating
How do you think
to.
you found the inner strength, though? I mean, no job, no place to live, you have children. How did you find that strength to tell yourself you're worth it? Because I think, or just that self-worth component.
I think it was, I would rather sleep on my mom's couch or sleep in my truck than be in this miserable and toxic household for another day. I prayed a lot. During that time was just a lot of just trusting in God, trusting that He had a plan for my life, even though I couldn't see beyond 1 hour or day to the next. And I just, one step at a time, just encouraging myself. I think we talked a little bit about this
Yeah, share what
earlier
the
was,
post-it notes are. They're not your to-do list.
yeah. So on these post-it notes, I write daily affirmations to encourage myself. I'm blessed, I'm thankful, I'm strong, I am loved, I'm forgiven, I'm prosperous. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
And I am enough. And then I also write down my prayer requests and my goals. So focusing on where I wanted to be, the kind of person, the kind of mom I wanted to be, the kind of woman I wanted to be, and what I would not, what I will no longer tolerate in my life anymore. I think something magical happens to us when we turn 40. We stop we stop being a people pleaser. Because I think in my 20s and 30s, I wanted everybody to like me,
Yes.
which is why I stayed in an unhealthy relationship, multiple unhealthy relationships. I wanted to be liked, I wanted to be loved. So I would do things to be likable so that people would like me. And now in my 40s, I'm okay if people don't like me or don't want to be friends with me, because now I understand I'm not for everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. And I also learned to set healthy boundaries. So in leaving that marriage, it was hard because then you think about what are people going to say about me? And Maui being such a small place, everybody knows everybody. Everybody talks about everybody. Everybody is all up in your business.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to say, the people who really know me and love me know the truth.
Yeah.
And those are the only people that I need to have in my circle. And I can do this. I don't want to be another statistic. I don't want to be one of those women who knows this is not where they should be, but choose to stay there because of finances, having a house, that level of comfort. So I did live with my mom for a while, sleeping on her couch. It was me, my younger son, and our dog,
Mm-hmm.
all crushed in her living room. But I was happy. I was free. I had peace. I wasn't constantly looking over my shoulder. I wasn't walking around on eggshells. I wasn't having to question every conversation. And it felt so good. And I wish I had done it sooner. But I am glad that I finally did do it.
So
It's so
what do you,
liberating.
sorry, I bet it's so liberating and it's worth feeling safe. So if someone is watching and they feel I should leave, but I don't think I can't because you don't understand my story. I mean, it's really, really hard to leave. And we all have different stories. Especially, I mean, what if you have 4 kids? What if you've never worked in your life? What if you really believe that you will not be able to support your kids, feed your kids, clothe your kids? What do you say to someone who thinks I can put up with this? It's not that bad.
It's a loaded question
Yeah, well, yeah, I know it's
because,
loaded,
yeah,
but what do you? I mean, it's almost. Well, I know it depends on the person, the
it
situation, but
does.
do you recommend? Is there anything to maybe? I know what you were saying before. It's a mindset. It truly is a mindset. And once you were saying that once you agree to no longer tolerate, you said something magical happens at 40. But I think no matter what age you are, once you decide and you put your boundaries in place, don't you think it's almost like the universe or the higher power just conspires with you and then doors open, healthier people into your
Yes.
life? I mean, you met
Yes.
your husband and married in 2018. I bet you never in your wildest dreams would even imagine that
I
you
wasn't
would.
even looking.
Yes. Yeah, and that's what happens, right? You leave a toxic relationship and you think, I never want to be in a relationship for either forever or for a long, long
For
time.
at least a long time.
And then
I just feel that.
2018, yeah, that's so you're kind of like a newlywed.
Kind of, yeah, we've been married for 2 years.
So what would you say though to someone who maybe they're on the fence or maybe they think I'm not strong enough? Just a little like if you had a post-it note, what would the post-it note say?
It would say, how much do you love yourself? How much do you value yourself? You know, do you love yourself enough to get into a healthier environment? I've also, with friends and family who have been in those situations, I kind of do a reverse psychology. And if it was me, what would you tell me?
Yes.
If you were watching me go through what you are going through, what would you tell me? Because that's the advice that you need to give to yourself. And
That's a great
unfortunately,
question. That's a great question though, because even if they might not do it, it makes them think. They would never tell a friend or a sister, you know what,
or a
just
loved
stay,
one,
or a loved one, just stay because you have your rent paid or your mortgage, you have food, just stay. at the expense of, I mean, your safety,
Everything.
and it doesn't sound like your self-esteem, right? When you look at all the years, which is why one of your affirmations, I am enough. I think a lot of us, and that's what I'm trying to, you know, tell my daughters too. They're enough no matter if they get a bad grade, get suspended from work, or like something horrible in their eyes is the most horrible thing. But don't define like failing. It's not really failing. It's like you said, you could have left earlier, but I think didn't it build resilience? I think
Right.
whatever happened to you, the timeline was meant the way that it happened. I mean, if you believe that things happen for a reason, right? And then you
Mhm.
what do you think? Do you see a growth in your children? And like we were talking about like the difference between being a grandmother and a mother. What do you think what kind of mindset do you have as a mom that's different from back then?
I think because I'm not as stressed, like I'm not in that environment anymore, I am able to really build a relationship with them because it's not a fight or flight environment. And um, I'm just not on edge as much. So I have the patience with their schoolwork or, just being able to hang out and watch a movie together. Just those little things. When you're in that toxic environment, it's those little moments that you really don't get with your kids because all these other things are going on. And so my mindset now, because I'm in a healthier environment, I'm able to give them a better version of me instead of the leftovers. Does that make sense?
Totally. I think all overwhelmed moms, I mean, that's a good way to put it. You get your leftovers or you're operating on an empty tank, so there's nothing to give. And
Yeah.
then what you do give, like you said, you're on this stress mode, that flight or fight, so you can't even enjoy, like you said, a simple movie or a meal. When you're I'm sure when you were eating a meal in that toxic relationship, your mind is constantly on survival mode. Was it like on how do I get through this?
Or, like what's going to happen next? How is his mood going to be when he comes home? I could tell just by the way I could hear him walking up the driveway what was going to happen when he walked in the door. And it's a horrible, I hate that feeling. It's a horrible feeling, versus now when I hear my husband coming down the hall, I'm happy to see him. It's so different. But the big motivating factor, aside from my own sanity, really is this the example I want set for my children? And so I guess part of me as a mother is, as moms, we're the first example to our boys of the kind of wife they will have because we're the first female relationship in their life. And fathers, whether it's their biological father or a stepfather, they set the example of what kind of husband and father they're going to be. And so um, that was my motivating factor, aside from my own sanity, was I want them to see what a healthy relationship looks like, even if it means that I'm doing it on my own. I
Yes.
want them to see me healthy and happy and at peace. And so with Jay and I, we will hold hands in front of the kids, we'll hug each other, we'll give each other a kiss because one of the goals that we have for the three boys is that we want them to see that even if you come from a bad marriage or a bad relationship, you can still find a good person. And just because you have one bad relationship doesn't mean that all relationships are bad. So we're really intentional. Even if we argue or disagree, we will work it out in front of, like, we do it in front of the kids so that they can see we may not agree on this certain topic, but we still love each other. So they're learning just as we're learning. And I think because Jay and I both came from unhealthy relationships, we're making more of an effort to really show each other how much we care. One of the benefits of being in a horrible relationship or a toxic one is that when you find a good one, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because you definitely know what a bad one is. And that was the case for me. I knew what it was like to have a horrible marriage, and I definitely know what can make a marriage fall apart. I might not know how to keep a marriage together, but I definitely know what will make it fall apart. And so for Jay and I, it's where we pick and choose our battles because we love each other and because we don't want to go back to, where we came from. And to be transparent, we got into a little argument this morning, and uh, I had to humble myself because I was wrong. I wouldn't have done that 10 years ago, but I apologized and I'm like, you know what, you're right. That wasn't nice of me. And so I see in myself how much I've
Evolved.
evolved. There are there is a lot of good that can come from being in a toxic environment.
Well, like you
Aside
said,
from,
right? What is, they always say you don't know what you want unless you experience it what you don't want. And unfortunately, in this case, I mean, the toxic environment, no one wants that, but then without a doubt, wow, this is an amazing man. You're not like, I'm not too sure because you know the signs. And you know what's really the gift that you guys are giving your boys is seeing your parents apologize, seeing them humble, seeing them vulnerable, and also demonstrating unconditional love. I think a lot of parents, they don't want to show fights in front of the kids, or they show the fights, but they don't see how the fights are resolved, that there is peace after. So the kids are just left with, oh, mom and dad are fighting all the time, but they don't see that the fights did resolve. So I love how you hug it out or you make peace in front of them so they know, hey, it's okay to fight, but there's a
there's a right way
resolution.
and a wrong
There's a
way
right way
to
to fight and a wrong way to
yeah,
fight. Yeah, because when you say we will never fight,
it's
I heard
not.
someone say that we will never ever mention divorce. And my husband goes, well, that's going to be broken. Or, I mean, he never mentions it, but because I was divorced, I guess I thought, oh, this is how I felt when I got divorced the first time. So I have to divorce you,
That
because I
was a
don't.
mindset that I had to work
Yeah,
on
because you're
too.
just and he's like, oh, you'll get over it. I'm like, no, I don't think I love you anymore. Oh, you'll get over
Yeah.
it. It was so funny. No, really though, I think this time, like, I haven't loved you for like at least 6 months. Yeah, you know what? You'll get over it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, so I'm glad we can laugh about it, but it's
Yes,
true because, we bring in some
a lot of
baggage
baggage.
when we come into a new relationship. And I'm very thankful that Jay is so patient and loving with me because I came in with a lot of baggage, with the fact that, uh, my ex-husband was not a great stepfather to my older son. And so I came in being cautious
Yes.
because of that experience. And it's something that we continue to work through, but I didn't realize I had that issue until, you know, a stepfather now is in the picture.
But to be aware, even to be aware of
Mm-hmm.
that, and then to know your triggers, to know that just because you think this, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true.
It's true, right?
But you see what you opened your world to once you left. I think this is
Yes.
inspiration for women who think, well, I don't want to be alone. I think, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be a single mom. I can't do this alone. But it's amazing how strong. Do you think that women are much stronger than they realize, and they can be complete, being a single mom? Like, your family doesn't have to be incomplete just because there is no husband or father.
I think women have a lot more strength than they realize. And I mean, we bring life into the world. You know, that's how strong we are. And bringing life into the world, it is our responsibility to care for and nurture the children that we bring into this world. And I think that's also a contributor to the motivation that I had was I'm responsible for these lives. I want them to have as healthy and thriving of a life that I could possibly give them. And I think when we take the focus off of ourselves,
Hmm.
I can't do this. I'm too scared. I'm not strong enough. I don't have enough money. We're so focused on ourselves instead of focusing on our kids. What do they need? What kind of environment can they thrive in? And how can I be that for them? I think when we take the focus off of ourselves and focus on our kids, that is a huge motivator. And being a single mom, it does suck, but it's not impossible to do. Um, and like what you had shared, once we take that step, when we take a step out in faith, things just magically and miraculously start to fall into place. It is like God is just waiting for you to take that step.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and that's when things started falling into place for me. I took that step. I was afraid. I was terrified. How am I going to take care of my kids? I was able to get a job within the first 3 weeks, I think, of leaving.
Wow.
And I saw a job posting on Craigslist for the Boys and Girls Club, and I got hired. And from there, I I made connections, you know, built relationships with people, and I ended up working. I ended up from there getting a job at Kamehameha Schools, which doubled my income and provided me with medical so that I had medical for the boys. You know, you just don't know what can happen if you just take a step out in faith. But if you don't take that step, you never know what's going to
Yeah. And that's the thing is, I remember Martin Luther King Jr. said, it's the faith is like going off that step. You're climbing the stairs and you can't see that
happen.
there's another step,
Seasons.
and you think you're going to fall. But just having that faith and just knowing, I think what you mentioned, your whole message was that you are worthy, that you deserve to have a life where you feel safe, that you flourish. And like you said, as a mom, that you provide an environment where your kids learn how, I mean, they, like you said, you're their role model. So are they going to put up with future toxic? Did you think that? Am I teaching my child to put up with future toxic environments?
To
Or am I going
allow,
to
yeah.
teach, yeah, to allow it, or to teach them when to just say enough is enough and to move forward? I mean, your boys must have learned so much. They've seen a lot, but I think when we see a lot at such a young age, it does build resilience and just inner strength because they have known what it was. So they probably have more appreciation for what is.
So I can share one story. This one
Hmm.
is it's amazing to me now, but at the time I was like, so my 12-year-old. So Jay and I had got into an argument. This was like a couple of years ago, but my 12-year-old had the courage to come up to me and say, "Mom, you were wrong." And I'm looking at him like, you know, I could slap you down
Yeah.
to the ground right now. You know, I'm like, who are you talking to? And he goes, and he said, "No, Mom, you were wrong." He said, "Do you want to be a single mom again?" At 12 years old. And I was like, I can't believe this kid is talking to me. But it made me realize, that he sees, he's so observant. And he said, "You need to stop being angry. You were wrong." At 12 years old. So
Wow.
I'm hoping that that is a positive for him.
Definitely. You know what? You just taught him, though, just the power of speaking and the courage to tell someone. And just that must have been like, wait a minute, to have someone say, "Do you want to be a single mom again?" It's almost like someone outside of you,
Yeah.
Luana.
And after things had calmed down, like, a few days or whatever later, I did end up talking with Matthew, and he goes, "Mom, I was so scared. I thought I was going to pee my
Yeah.
pants." I said,
Yeah,
"Well, you know
because it
what?
took it took a lot of strength,
I said, I
courage.
admire your courage that you were able to do that, even though you were terrified."
But you see, that alone, that story alone shows the courage that you've instilled in your boys.
I hope so.
That's an
I hope
amazing
that they
story.
realize their worth and value and what they will and will not tolerate in their lives. If they are able to have healthy and happy relationships because of what they've watched me go through, then it was worth it. I
It's
would
all
promise
worth it.
myself I wasn't gonna cry, but it's worth it.
It is worth it. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for sharing, for being vulnerable. I really admire your journey and for you sharing it. If it just helps one person or just plants that seed where we do
yeah,
not have to tolerate anything that shouldn't be. And I just read a quote: "Do not ever be with someone who you have to earn their love.
that's
Love
right.
should not be earned."
Yeah,
And
it's a gift.
yeah, and it should be where you feel that you're good enough. One of
Yes,
your affirmations, that you are good enough, you're worthy, that you love, and it all starts with self-love. And I think when we're self-critical and then we come, like you said, with baggage, it's an extra challenge, but it's all worth it when we teach as a mom. Don't you think
our
that's one of the
kids.
most? Yes, because what we teach and role model to our kids, it's going to perpetuate. And one of the things that I've learned is you just leaving a legacy. And for you, it's the legacy of, now you're gonna make me cry, a legacy of
I
a
know. Sorry.
healthy, a legacy of a healthy environment. It's not even the legacy of knowledge, the legacy of carrying on tradition, but it's the legacy of knowing what kind of environment that you deserve to live in.
And deserve to be, treated. And I mean, as moms, that's our responsibility to our kids. They're totally dependent on us. And it's a responsibility to be taken seriously.
Seriously. Wow. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. This opened my eyes too, because I think I do need to apologize more.
It's not easy. Humble
And just
pie.
knowing, you know what? Knowing that it is not a weakness. I never saw my parents apologize. And so I think up until I hit 30, I said, when I'm wrong, I will apologize. That was my line. When I'm wrong, I'll apologize. So you're not wrong? No, but when I'm wrong, I'll apologize. And then you realize, I mean, Thomas apologized probably whenever it wasn't even his fault, but you can apologize for the situation. You can apologize for hurting the other person. And so now I think that was one of my lessons, like teaching children, my girls, to apologize. And the other thing, well, for me, because I'm an only child, that things don't work out for no reason at all. Right. Sometimes life says no for no reason at all. And I think you've learned, you probably learned that on at a much younger age. And I think that it builds resilience. Everyone that I talk to who's overcome such a it is a rough, right? It's just very rough, challenging childhood. I think you guys have just such a strong spirit, which is what you probably make even better moms because of what you teach and what you role model. So thank you, Luana. I really appreciate
Thank you
this.
so much.
Thank you. And I will continue. Oh, where can people find you? Because I want everyone to know your amazing Instagram TikToks. You guys have to watch Luana. She is the realtor of the year. I think it doesn't matter what you produce, what you educate us on, and just your, I love
I
it.
know the pointing.
I love
Maybe I'll
it.
do a dancing one, but
Oh my
pointing
gosh,
is
do it,
crazy.
do
But
it. Yeah, I don't know how to do that yet. I have to learn how to do that. But where can they find you? And
so they you can find me on Instagram at luana.husing.
do you have Facebook as well?
And TikTok. TikTok is the same. Twitter is the same. Facebook is the same.
Oh, so it's very easy to find you. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Have a great Tuesday, and I'll keep in touch with you.
Thank you for having
Okay,
me.
take care.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.